Ladies and gentlemen, The Lost Mary. Recently published by you, Dr. James Tabor, and we have a special guest joining us, John Dominic Crossan. If there's anyone who's like literally going to be in the Mary, okay, Dom would be a guy coming from the Catholic tradition, right?
And he's part of the Marian order, or what did you say?
Yes, the Order of Servants of Mary, the 13th century order.
So he's like the perfect example of what really you're uncovering, and he'll see it because he's the historical guy too now. So it's not like I'm talking to an average Catholic here. I'm talking to a guy who's like a bona fide historian going into this stuff. And so we want to discuss Mary. We want to know the real lost Mary that you've rediscovered here in this book. Please, starting with you, James, tell us, why did you write this book? What is in this book? And then we'll have Dom give his commentary about what he might have to say about some of that.
Okay, great.
We're going to pass the book around. That's our new.
Okay,
that's our rule.
First, the cover.
Okay.
So this is a painting from the 1500s, Italian painter. And he's explained inside the cover, but we don't know much about him. But that is the Mona Lisa. You tell me what she's thinking. I'll show the camera. Is she sorrowful? Is she thoughtful? Is she contemplating the future of her sons or whatever? I mean, it's just amazing.
Right.
So we debated what to call it, with publishers. This is Knopf, Random House, Penguin, they call it. Real Mary, Lost Mary, Forgotten Mary, Recovering Mary. We decided Lost, and it's in the first line of the book.
It's better.
The best known, least known woman in history. This is a feminist project. I want to read you something at the end, just a paragraph. And I start by saying, let's think of some great women.
Yeah.
And I'll do this for you like I do with my students. Let's see. Helen of Troy. Okay, good. Name another one. Ooh, Cleopatra. Yeah, we know a lot about her. We've got all kinds of things about her. She's in the book here. Man, Joan of Arc. You just skipped 1,000 years.
Yeah. Isn't that sad?
Queen Elizabeth I. Man. Mary. What do you know about her? So she's the first chapter kind of sets that up. So Lost is right. The other thing is I wanted to very humbly and inadequately kick off a quest for the historical Mary, just like we did with Jesus. So this is my stab at it. It really hasn't been done by New Testament scholars. There are a lot of devotional books on Mary. Some of our great feminist scholars like Amy Jo Levine have done anthologies of Mary. Raymond Brown did a nice little New Testament book on Mary, trying to put it all together. But the problem is, how could you do a quest for the historical Mary? What was she really like in her own time? Well, I start negatively. What has she lost? She's lost. How's she lost? She lost her religion. She's not Jewish, but it's sort of like very much Jesus the Jew. What a shocking title. We're all blown away. Something about the word Jew. Mary the Jew, okay? Get it out. Mary the Jew.
Right.
Jewish woman. 7 or more children, maybe. Probably some died, if we go by reality. Galilean. Maybe born in Sepphoris. We have a tradition of Mary's house. Why put it in Sepphoris? It's 4th century. Byzantine church. Later, Nazareth becomes the place for Mary's house. But what about Mary? We've got a crazy text called the Proto-Evangelium of James that I think is going to mislead everybody. But it does say Joachim and Anna, parents, they have an estate and so forth.
Still a cool text.
It's a cool text, and I discuss it fully in here.
Yeah.
But, so how are we going to quest for Mary? I counted 12 passages. I've got 12 passages. Fortunately, I found that they were crumbs in the forest. They were breadcrumbs in the forest. Legitimately or illegitimately, I took each crumb and tried to say, what can I make of it?
Right.
You know. So I've got her in Nazareth. I've got her pregnant with Jesus. Based on Mark 6:3, I'm taking them as brothers, not half-brothers, according to the Roman Catholic tradition, not sons of Joseph by a previous marriage. Could be true, but I'm suspicious that that is because of later aversion to sexuality. You can't mix sex with holiness if you're going to go for the top level of holiness. You just can't, you know. So I'm going to give her the children, give her the husband. She's been robbed of, you know, my grandmother had 11 children and one died. I bring her back. Grandma, you didn't have any children. You were a Catholic nun or whatever, you know. So she's Jewish. She has this family. She's married. Thank God for Matthew 1:25. And he knew her not until she brought forth her firstborn son. And all the convoluted explanations. Well, that doesn't mean sex. No way was he sleeping with the Holy Mary. But we find out later in the book she didn't go to the toilet either. And I put that on the same par. A married woman never had sex and didn't go to the toilet. How could she not go to the toilet? Well, Jesus didn't either. Mm-hmm. He ate just enough food that his body absorbed it, sort of like an angel. But he was human, and he just drank just enough. Why? Because you can't imagine these holy people going aside, as the Old Testament puts it. So she's been robbed of, well, let's just be frank. Let's just imagine that she loves Joseph. And she loves him passionately. And they live together as a couple. Sounds like he might have died or been killed early. He disappears. If he's historical, I think he might have been Jesus, son of Joseph. Also got an ossuary of James and Jesus, but we won't do archaeology right now. So I just began to think of all the things she's lost, and I want to give her life back. Now, the one thing I gave her back with vengeance, 100%, I'm making her, and I cannot prove this at all. She could have been a daffy woman with hardly an idea in her head. But I'm making her the matriarch of the movement. You know, everybody wanted to be Mary Magdalene. Mm-hmm. She's the founder. Mary's the founder. Who raised those boys? Who nursed them? Who watched Sepphoris burn from Nazareth and saw 2,000 people crucified up and down the road while she's nursing Jesus, if you follow the chronology? The year of the three messiahs, I call it. Mm-hmm. You had three messiahs rise up. Judas, son of Hezekiah, not Judas the Galilean later, that's in 6 CE. Simon of Perea, and the Shepherd King. These are messianic upstarts, revolutionary, but the Shepherd King sounds like he might have been more, you know, the David King.
The David King.
And so I want to put her in that time, and really all I have is a skeletal outline of breadcrumbs, and mainly Josephus and my archaeology. So as you're reading this, I'll just open the chapters. Let me just tell you how I unfolded it. Finding the Lost Mary sets it up. Then I call the next chapter 2,000 crucifixions. Let's dive into the time. Varus comes down with his legions. Sepphoris is put aflame. Would you let me put Mary there? It's not mentioned. Mm-hmm. That's the Silent Night, Holy Night Christmas story you've never heard. Mm-hmm. Let's put that in. Now my challenge was the forgotten city of Sepphoris. Whether she was born there or not, she lives 4 miles south of the major urban center of the Galilee. Crossroads east and west, north and south, huge reservoir system, and then the forgotten town or city of Raphia that Josephus says is the largest town in the Galilee. And Nazareth is a little suburb or village of Raphia, which is just south of the major urban center. So I joked with my students once, she's an urban chick, but she goes to the little town. I'm sure took up the life of a Galilean woman. So then I talk about Game of Thrones, the other king of the Jews. Game of Thrones is everything that happened with Herod the Great, Herod Antipas, the sons, all the intrigue. Mm-hmm. The other king of the Jews, Herod the Great.
Yeah.
And this was the hardest part of the book. I've never gone more than 3 years between books, 3 or 4 years, once I started spinning them out. And this one took me 10 years. Now we've got COVID and we've got other reasons. My editor retired. I had to change editors. But it was just so hard to write. Now everybody that reads it, you don't want to recommend your own book and say how great it was, but that history in Josephus of those kings and rulers is so complex from the Maccabees on through 70. It's just so hard to cover, and really tell the story. And you can read it and judge. You haven't read it yet.
Not yet.
Everybody that reads it says, wow, I'm not sure I remember them all, but yeah, you're giving me Mary's world. Thank you.
That's what I like
You're
the
giving
most
me
about.
Mary's world back.
Yeah.
And then you add the archaeology. You excavated at Cephas.
Right.
And the students said, do you think Jesus ever walked from Nazareth to Cephas? And I said, hey, 4 o'clock, the alarm rings. Mary's up. The girls are bustling. The fire is lit. We got to make the bread, fresh bread for the men. They're headed to Cephas. Jesus is a tecton. His father is an architecton. I don't think he's a day laborer. He might have been. I don't know any of this. I'm just putting him. I'll go with the stonemason, since remember in the Ebionite gospel, he heals the hands of a crippled stonemason.
Yeah. He's also a chief cornerstone. I mean, there's these kind of linguistic...
And a lot of his stories about building and foundations.
Yeah,
but he gives agricultural images
he does.
too.
He's farmer stuff, all that stuff. Yeah.
So look, I say this is an exercise in imagination.
Yeah.
I mean, what if? But she was a woman. She was married. She did have the kids. She lived at this time. Time, place, circumstance. I didn't just make it all up. She's not in some other place. And then the hardest chapter, Mary's secret. Now, could I set the record straight? Here's my camera. Even though everyone says James Tabor has suggested that Jesus' father was a Roman soldier named Pantera, please. Anyone who says that has not read what I've written. I've gone through it carefully. At the end, I say most likely Joseph was the father, but if I'm filling out the birth certificate, I'm going to say father unknown, because I think Jane Schauberg and others have raised the question of whether there could be some irregularity in the marriage. Yeah. Even just the John statement, we were not born of fornication, or the Gospel of Thomas.
Accusations of it.
About being the son of a harlot and so forth. And Joseph, in Matthew, reacts as any engaged man would do. You're pregnant. But you know what? Whether you had a dream or not, I'm taking the child.
Yeah.
I'm not going to shame you. Now, if I'm writing a movie, Mary, I am so in love with you. I'm weeping. And I know you love that man, but he's gone. Now I'm making the movie. He was taken up in 4 BC by the Roman army and impressed, and he ends up in Germany, whatever. This is the movie.
Yeah.
But the point is, she's got a secret. And at the end, I say, whoever a woman invites to her bed is her business. We can't reproduce that. But we're not talking about slut in the ditch or something like that. Jewish women are given the right of refusal in the Hebrew Bible. We've got the stories of Rachel and Rebecca and so forth. I think there's some cultural evidence of that. But I could also imagine, again, for the movie, because I don't know this in the movie, I'm going to imagine she was in love with a boy named Pantera. Now, every scholar I've ever talked to, well, that's a pun on Parthenos, Dr. Tabor, don't you know that? Even my students say it. My fellow colleagues say it. And I have a graduate student, and I said, go find out where that started. Nobody ever suggested that in the ancient world. Until the 19th century, a German scholar said, that could be a pun on Parthenos. But now we all repeat it. That's a pun on Parthenos. Well, why didn't Epiphanius think of that? Why didn't Jerome think of that? It's brilliant. Why didn't Origen think of that? You see?
Yeah.
To get rid of the gossip of Celsus. He doesn't say that. But what they do say, now this could be apologetic, that Pantera is a name within the family. So, and then I quote the rabbis in Sepphoris, Eleazar and others, in the 2nd century, that are speaking positively of Jesus. They like what he said. Eleazar gets in trouble for it. And later he wonders if that's why he was taken by God. You know, you liked what a heretic said, because this is later, they don't like Jesus. But they say, you know, Jesus ben Pantera. He once said that, what should we do with the wages of a harlot? Let's talk about that in the yeshiva today. I remember Yeshua ben Pantera said, why don't you build toilets with them? Because in Micah it says, from filth goes filth. And the rabbi, he said, I like that. I like that. So I don't think it was slander at first. You know, it's the only thing I've ever agreed with Epiphanius on. He's so horrible. But he does say, this is a family name. So, it's a family name, so if you say son of Pantera, it's son of the Pantera clan.
Right.
So the boy, the father, if Joseph's not the father, it's either God or another man. If it's another man, it's Mary's secret. But I'm going to think the best. Why think the worst? Oh, she was raped, or she was this, or she was that. How about she was in love? Something happened to him. Could have been the parents saying, Mary, you're just not thinking practically. This Joseph has well established. We've planned this. I think they're probably related. These clans intermarry. He's of David. I think she's of David. I don't think Luke 3 is an apologetic made-up genealogy. I don't know if it's accurate, but I don't think it's just made up. I think it's, you know, Balcom gives a lot of stuff on this, how they kept genealogical records and so on. So there's a lot I don't know. But the biggest thing I don't know is that she's the wellspring behind the teachings of Jesus. So at the end of the book, and this I owe to Dom, Mary's message then and now, I go through and I take 5 themes of the teachings of Jesus, the authentic, original teachings of Jesus that most of us agree on. And I'll thumb through, and I give in italics all the quotes right from the Gospels, mostly Q. Now I'm saying Mary was part of this. Did she come up with all of it? Mm-hmm. The kingdom of God is already present, but not yet realized. Now that one's hard to prove and put with Mary, but maybe she said, you know, you're of Davidic lineage. James, you're of Davidic lineage. If God did ever call you, you are not raising armies. You are not, this is not going to bring the kingdom. What's going to bring the kingdom is that kid pushed you down and made fun of you the other day, and you came home crying, and guess what? Go put some coals of fire on his head tomorrow. Go talk to him. The second one is what is up is down and what is down is up. All the way through. The internal, not the external, is what counts. And a transformed egalitarian society, gender, class, and ethnicity melt away. So I got Mary saying, yeah, that Samaritan who came through town the other day, did you see? Nobody even talked to him. He's a ragman or something, selling some things, whatever you want to say. And I went out and talked to him. And you know, he's a really sincere person. Or whatever, you know. Again, boy, Tabor, you've written a novel, right? And love, forgiveness, and nonviolence will transform the world. So I'm giving that to Mary. She's the matriarch. And I put a picture of the Pentecost scene. This is Catholic. It's Eastern. It's one of the wooden plaques that you get. But at least they knew this. Day of Pentecost, 12 apostles, Mary Magdalene. Mary's in the center. Hundreds of pictures. You grew up. Yeah. Mary's in the center. Now Luke, here's the 12. His mother Mary and the brothers were there. Yeah. There? How about James has been chosen? Even the enemies agree. Eusebius even says, according Peter and John were not jealous and egotistical, even though John wanted to sit at the right and left hand of Jesus, and they gave it to James. And then we get the whole Ebionite tradition. It's James, Gospel of Thomas, go to James. So I've got my succession, my dynasty. But the main thing is that I give it to her. Now, I'm going to pause, and I want to find this passage. So this is almost towards the very end of the book. It was hard to write. This last chapter took me so many drafts. The results of recovering the historical Mary, the real Mary, can have profound implications for our world today. First and foremost, we owe it to her, as is the case with any historical figure whose life story has been lost, distorted, transformed in such significant ways. We owe her. In the case of Mary, much more is at stake, since she is the most notable and recognized woman in history, whereas her image as the ever-virgin Queen of Heaven, Mother of God, is so far removed from any historical reality that we can recover from our earliest sources. This theological transformation in the centuries after her life took from her the very thing most important to her, her Jewish faith, her 8 children, whom she courageously guided into adulthood as a single mother, a widow. If Joseph died, she's a widow with kids. It's the incredible courage and inspiration she provided to her most remarkable son and his almost forgotten brother James. All my students, who's James? I never heard of him, which birthed the movement that we know as Christianity. And later I say things about how women have been forgotten and how they've been marginalized and they're not that important.
Right.
And if we could redeem this woman and give her back her life, maybe we can do it also with other women. You know, we have a few famous women in history, but now I think we are at a time where some of that has happened in the last 100 years. My mother couldn't vote. You know, the year she was born, and a year after, I think they got the vote. So she got to vote because she grew up, but her mother couldn't vote, right? Couldn't go to Yale, Harvard, Princeton, William and Mary. You go for endorsements and blurbs, and I admire various colleagues, but I went to the ones that I most hoped, they're well known in our field, but also they must. And one of them is John Dominic Crossan.
Never heard of him.
Author of The Historical Jesus. And he wrote, Mary, Mother of Jesus, perhaps the most poorly understood person who ever lived, thank you, could not find a better modern interpreter than James Tabor, whose lifelong whose lifelong training in both archaeology and textual studies has given him the keys to, for the first time, construct a convincing portrayal of this enigmatic figure. I also sent it to Paula Fredrickson, that I just admire so much. You've interviewed her. And I thought she'd be busy, and she said, thank you for this book. I'm going to take out a few days and read it. And she did. 3 days later, she wrote me. She read it. Normally you think, hey, look through. Yeah, this looks okay. I'll give a little positive blurb, help Tabor out. And she wrote the most wonderful. The Lost Mary affects an imaginative repatriation of this ancient and elusive figure vividly conjuring both her character and the time she lived in. Tabor's Mary is lost no more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think she's honest to say, you conjure that up. But as my teacher Jonathan Smith said, if you're going to exaggerate, try to exaggerate in the direction of the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
And I talk about these so-called negative passages on Mary. For example, Luke. Oh boy, yeah, she's at Pentecost, but in the back room probably. Or Acts 15. Peter speaks, Paul speaks, great decision.
Mm-hmm.
James, my decision is, who are you? Doesn't even call him the brother of the Lord. Takes out the names of the children when he has the Nazareth scene. And at the cross, there were women from Galilee. Oh, women from Galilee. How about Mary Magdalene and his mother?
Right.
And I think James is the beloved disciple. And I don't mean literary. I think that's a source that the author had on one of the layers, because you give your mother over to the next son. But Luke, he's not going to tell you the name, the author of Luke. He's not going to tell you the name. He's not, and even in Acts, if he wrote Acts, it's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I learned that from Stephen Shoemaker, the great expert on Mary. You know, he's written all these books on Mary. And he said, Luke is getting rid of the family. He doesn't want the family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I actually know him from Islamic scholarship.
Yeah.
Because he does a lot on that. But
Now, the one negative story that everybody would say I'm wrong on, and you know, you got to debate, right? So I could be wrong, but I got to have an answer. Your brothers and sisters are outside. They need to get in. They're living at the house in Capernaum, according to the text. Who are my mother and brothers? All of you who hear, those who hear and do the word of God, as if they didn't. Now, this is not John that the brothers didn't believe yet. This is Mark. And I say, how about mi casa, su casa? It is so crowded, my own family can't get in, but guess what? My family's here. And they're fine, they live here. And they'll squeeze in. But you're all my family. Otherwise, you got to rush out because your real family's here. Now, I can refute that right now and take it the other way. Maybe Mark wasn't big on the family. So, you know, these are imaginative recreations.
But I was gonna.
But what isn't imaginative is let's give her credit.
Right.
Let's give her credit.
And that's why I think this book is so important. Dom, can you chime in? What are your thoughts? Did you get a chance to read the book?
Yes. Yep.
And tell us, coming from your Catholic background too, like, because it seemed like, just wherever you want to go.
Okay. Two things, and I'd like them to be a bit autobiographical, where I come in to meet and join James. In some book, I've forgotten which one, I'm sorry. I imagined something, too, about Mary and Jesus, and here's the basis for it. I grew up, as you know, in the 30s and 40s in Ireland. And of course, we had to go to school and we learned all the history. And the history came in here, dates and without the year. But what we really learned the history from was the songs. The patriot songs. Oh, we have great resistance songs. 1798 dominated my childhood in 1950 because it was the best song. When the ships we've been wearily waiting sailed into, listen to the rhythm, sailed into Killala's broad beer. Poor Wexford stripped naked, hung high on the cross, or heart pierced by traitors and slaves. When I read Josephus, I thought he was writing about Ireland, by the way. Usual. Anyway, so I imagined if I grew up in Ireland and couldn't forget 1798, even if I wanted to, could Jesus, growing up in Nazareth, forget 4 BCE, when the legions came south, as they always did along the coast, and it was Varus was in charge. Who was it? Yeah.
Varus,
sent in a whole legion against Sepphoris.
I think maybe even
ground.
2 or 3 legions. Yeah. I think he said.
They came down. I think it was one he sent Sepphoris and kept going south. Now wait a minute. 4 BCE, according to Josephus, a legion hit Sepphoris. Now, the legions did not do precision strikes. The legions traveled after they left camp, maybe with 3 days of living off the land. So all those villages around Sepphoris were the men killed, the women raped, the children enslaved. That was what happens when the legions went past. Now you could hide out, and there's all sorts of places in Galilee where you could hide in the caves if you went past. But I'm imagining, could Jesus possibly grow up in Nazareth and not be dominated, whether he liked it or not, by telling him about the day the Romans came?
Yes.
It's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't grow up without hearing 150 years before about the day the French didn't come.
Or someone living on the block of the Twin Towers, not
Yes.
living in the shadow of 9/11.
Exactly.
This you couldn't.
And growing up, little Mary,
Yeah.
hearing from her parents about the antics of Herod the Great.
So
That's
this is
also
the biggest thing. I mean, now, I imagine, I'm sure this is pure hypothesis, did someday, when Mary was educating Jesus, by the way, took him up to the Nazareth Ridge and
Yes.
told him the story about Sepphoris.
that's not the way. Yeah.
I'm willing to say, how could he not? And how could Jesus not wonder, where was God the day the Romans came? At what age? At 7. Now it's pure hypothesis. But by 7, I knew all about 1798 because the songs were great and the rhythm was
Yeah,
great and
right.
it wasn't hard to remember them. You know, I can still do it. But
Yeah, we forget this. We
Yeah.
call it oral tradition. No, it's much deep. You know, it's
So I'm going to say, Mary, I'm not saying he wandered up by himself. Somebody had to tell him that. Explain to him. Now, he probably heard the stories, but where was God? You know, David and Goliath is lovely stuff. Where was David, or our David, the day the Romans came? So the day the Romans came.
it's a great
So that's one
idea.
thing that I think. And that's Mary. Mary had to explain it to him before anyone else did. Not just the fact he was here, but what it meant. And he could get it, and those expletives deleted in Hebrew, Romans, and we should kill them. He could get it in different stories. And I do think, by the way, that it does seem that Joseph was probably killed maybe in 4 BC.
Could have been, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
otherwise,
the 12,
I don't know
age
how,
12 story is.
how they would
yeah.
say son of Mary. You know, so,
Mark, yeah, Mark.
so she was a
doesn't
widow. I think quite likely she was a widow with multiple children. So that's one thing. Now there's a second thing. I joined a 13th century Roman Catholic religious order, as we've said. It's called the Order of Servants of Mary, Order Servorum Mariae. They were 7 noblemen of Florence who were fed up with the Ghibellines and the Guelphs killing one another, retired to Monte Scenario and became like a sacred sodality, prayer. They were thinking maybe of becoming hermits. Order of Servants of Mary. That's the order I joined when, well, imagine at 15, I entered the novitiate when I was 16. I came to this country when I was 17. Now, during the war, which I was neutral in Ireland, during the war of, well, I was going to say 39 to 45, 41 to 45 in this country, the Mass was all in Latin. So what were the mothers and the sisters and the lovers of the troops who were gone and dying, Europe, the Pacific, what did they go to Mass for? I mean, yes, it was the sacrifice of Christ, but all in Latin. It didn't work. So they started, our order started in Chicago, a novena to the sorrowful mother.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
the Virgin Mother.
Yes,
None of that
yes.
stuff. About the mother with the dead son in her hands.
Absolutely.
The Pietà.
Yes.
It took over Chicago. The police had to come down and traffic, because from, I don't know, 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night, one novena after another. Then it spread to lots of churches around the country that wanted something
Yes.
to mourn with.
Yeah.
Now, maybe the Mass should have, but it wasn't. They wanted a sorrowful mother,
Yeah.
not a virgin mother.
Someone who could understand.
Someone who could understand. So when I came here, now I came in 51, as I said, that was all the history of the order and everything else. So I got all that when I came here. But the other thing that left for me, I don't know if it is causal or just, if I'm watching CNN, say, it's usually in the kitchen, the only time I watch is when we're preparing meals, and I'm watching, say, war, let me keep it neutral from one war, I see people, soldiers fighting one another. That doesn't affect me the same way. I mean, I understand, of course, they can suffer terribly, but at least they're fighting one another.
Yeah.
What gets me is the women
Yes.
fleeing with a child in their arms.
Oh, yeah.
That gets me. But especially for me, it's a mother, because
Yeah.
she's responsible for, and she can't be responsible. She's not responsible for everything that's going on. So how could she be responsible for the future? So I don't know if this has anything, honestly, to do with the sorrowful mother or the order I belonged in for 19 years. But I know that hits me in a way that soldiers, and maybe it's not fair if a man is going down the road by himself. It doesn't hit me the same way.
Yeah.
If I may add
Yeah, go
something
on.
to this, because I'm coming from a completely different tradition, and it's unfortunate. The Protestant tradition forms that I've come from, we purposely, it seems, or there's been an intentional goal to minimize and even delete her.
Oh yeah.
Jesus
I mean,
is the guy. Yep.
She is, honestly, she's just like, she was a vessel, good, okay, get her out of the picture, because we're so anti-Roman Catholic, so anti our historical Protestant faith, that we've literally butchered this image. Because the way you just painted that was beautiful, because it's like my mom. Like if Protestants could just walk back and go, hold on. We need these images. We need this picture of Mary in our tradition, and bringing that back more with a fervor that I think is there, that you're describing in the kind of tradition you're coming from. Because when I was doing it, you're right, it's purely Jesus. Joseph, he's had a dream, like that's got, but it's like so Jesus-centric that, as you keep pointing out, James who?
Yeah.
James Schmames.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Jesus again. It's so Jesus that you literally are taking the woman who is obviously pivotal to the entire movement, and why not, build that theology within your church, even if it's fictive, like the suffering mother.
Yeah.
There's a reality behind that image of Mary carrying her dead child because of the wars, because of the deaths, and I think we need these things.
And it's Luke. Luke is the one thing he mentions. Your sword shall pierce. Yeah, I mean, that is the one
The good part of
connection
Luke.
you have.
Yeah, that's
he
right.
doesn't pick up. He doesn't say, "Isn't that marvelous? You're the mother of the Messiah.
Right.
Congratulations." You could get it.
Yeah. Now, Catholics, I say in the first chapter, I consider this book a contribution to Marian devotion. And I know that there are millions of Catholics, I've already heard from some of them, that are in tears when they read this book.
Wow.
Because they are not like I was, like you. Oh yeah, the mother, but she didn't know, or whatever.
We try to downplay.
And because that's Catholic, it's Catholic.
It's paganism.
And
She's
they
part
take
of the
that
church.
devotion. It's so legitimate.
Yeah.
Who can they turn to? And then they go back to her, the real Mary, the historical Mary, and think, wow, she actually historically may well have said to Jesus, you guys might be messiahs, I don't know what you're going to be, but that is not the way to do it. That is not going to get us anywhere. It only, if you read in that chapter, the three messiahs, it leads to horrible things in Jerusalem. Thousands of people are killed in the riots. It's another foolish move that you're going to bring the kingdom of God by arming yourselves. And the Romans just come in, and Herod, and they just wipe them out. Just wipe them out, yeah. So,
There's something beautiful about a mother that is lost in our traditions that we came out of, that is still there in the Catholic and in Orthodox forms of Christianity. And I do love what you're doing here, because you bring the humanity back, which I can't wait to read it. But you're making me think about it. And I'm like, there's no one in my life other than my wife, who is a mother, okay, than my mom. I called my mom. I was at the hospital last night. No one does this.
Of course you did.
I had a situation happen last night. I had some type of something. I'm hoping my health is going to get better. I called mom while I'm on the emergency table. I've got these IVs. They draw all this blood. I've got the pump on my arm. And I call mom.
Most of us understand that.
Well, maybe, as James said, the way the way to do it is if somebody might be turned off by the virginal birth or the assumption.
That's a big thing.
Maybe let's begin by talking about whatever term you want to use, the sorrowful mother, the pietà.
Yeah, the
That
human
image
mother.
of a mother with a executed, in this case, son on her lap.
And that's as real as it can get.
Yeah.
You don't need the extra baggage. You can choose to follow that and enjoy that kind of part of your flowering of your theology, but at the end of the day...
Once I start there, as somebody talks about the virginal, fine, I think I know it. Even you want to say assumption, fine. Granted, we start with the pietà, as it were.
I did the Biblical Archaeology Society Mediterranean cruise on
Oh,
Paul.
you did that, good.
And then I was in Athens, and a little town on the port, and I went in a Greek Orthodox church.
Yeah.
Very beautiful, of course. And I'm not Catholic. I mean, I'm the Protestant boy, right? The Bible guy, Campbellite. And I was very much able to feel this as I looked at those images of Mary.
Yeah.
Very much. And also
essentially
honoring all the people that would come and think of these things.
Yeah.
And a lot of them pray and they need things, and you've got the idea what is it, a mediatrix is what's the
mediatrix.
Mediatrix. You know, that's, who cares? You know, how do you get to God? So.
There is one thing I think Catholicism, I'm going to say Catholicism, my Catholicism has to be careful about. That is so exalting Mary that it justifies denigrating women.
Yes.
I mean, look how much we exalt
I
Mary.
could never
so we
be
must
that.
feminists.
I could never be that.
Like she wasn't immortal like all women.
Plus, I have children, and I'm normal, and I have problems, and oh no, she was just up there. Yeah.
But I'm talking also of women in the church, Catholic women. So I don't want the hierarchy or the Vatican or the Curia able to hint, let me put the verb, that look how we respect women. No over-exalting Mary, which she shouldn't be able to do actually. But if you're doing it to say that we don't then have to talk about ordinary women in the church, or whether women could be priests, or whether women can be this. No, I want to be very careful that we might be compensating our conscience.
I feel like the same problem is happening though with Jesus. When you over-exalt Mary, then she's almost unrelatable in some respects by people who are women, probably looking to her as an example, a model. And when in the Protestant tradition, he's so divine, and I know he is in the Catholic as well, but like there's this idea of he is so unbelievably beyond us.
Yeah.
He's a visitor from outer space.
Yeah, like how do you even model and actually follow that as an example if you take him to earth as a Jew who's saying, see that person who's hungry?
Yeah, first century.
Feed them. Help that person who doesn't have any clothes. That widow, she's hurt, she's broken. Go, like that's a thing we can do. Whereas sometimes I'm about something fantastic and you're like, dude, he lost me, I can't do that. Or he's perfectly sinless and there's like
I'm home free. But that's what James has done by plunking Mary into
that crazy world, that horrible world.
I mean, the first century, but I mean, this was the huge changes. The Roman Empire was changing from a, whatever you want to call it, an oligarchy to an autocracy, whatever you want to call it, describe it. Judaism is temple-centered, Torah-centered. Everything is changing. I mean, it's going to take quite a while to have another century quite as dynamic.
Yes.
Dangerous.
And I don't think it's just because we chose Jesus and he's in that century. I think it's...
No, it really isn't.
You could actually leave him out. And of course, I don't touch on him in all those chapters about
these were
what's
more the
going
kids.
on. He wasn't even... So...
Wow.
Well, do we have...
Shameless plug here.
Okay.
Because we got 8 minutes left on this here. You got to get the book, James.
Well, I've got a final question for Dom, and
Yes.
please take 8 minutes. Could you give us your best version of how the message of Jesus, or the message of Mary through Jesus, let's go that way, could still potentially save us and transform the world? Not going to heaven when you die, and just...
Yeah.
We are in trouble. Our globe is hurting.
I'm going to give it in, as it were, points. I begin with the invention of nonviolent resistance in the first century between, the dates are important, 6 CE and 66 CE. Before those two wars, violent resistance, we know all
That
about
would be the
those.
Judas
Yeah.
and
So if Jesus had never, let's say Jesus never exists for the moment, but we have in Josephus, and he tells us through gritted teeth, because he really doesn't like nonviolent resistance. Violent resistance, of course, is wrong, but it happens. But nonviolent resistance, those villains with purer hearts, but impurer hands, he calls them. I think Jewish sages, and I think it was part of the Pharisees, invented, because I have no evidence it ever existed before, organized, controlled, massive nonviolent resistance in that lull between the two wars, when alone it can happen. Jesus now is in that matrix, so is John the Baptist. Jesus is operating with nonviolent resistance. He doesn't invent it. It's not a Christian idea. He's just been a Jew taking one of the options. So, Jesus is operating from nonviolent resistance to Rome. That's certified by Pilate because he executes Jesus but doesn't round up his top lieutenants.
No, they haven't gathered arms, haven't killed anybody.
So it's,
no plans.
It's serious, but look, if I, let me be Pilate, if I thought those jerks had really arms, there'd be 12 crosses up there. Well, maybe I do, what's his name, Judas too, just to be sure. But here's what we do with a leader of nonviolent resistance. That's in the law. If you're a leader of nonviolent resistance, that is, you create tumult among the people. That's their technical
That's
term.
their term. Yeah.
We either crucify you, send you to the beasts, or we send you to an island if you happen to be an aristocrat. We don't like to show you how easy aristocrats die. So, certified by Rome, as far as I'm concerned, Jesus is executed by himself. That means for me non-violent resistance to Rome. I think the model, and anyone else could have done it, but Jesus did it. That's like saying Mozart, anyone could have written what Mozart did, but no, Mozart did. So, Jesus in that matrix became a Messiah of nonviolent resistance. Many Jews probably said, that's nuts. We want a Davidic Messiah who's going to lead us by transcendental power against the Romans. Sure, those are the ones who said, we're not interested. But enough Jews knew about all that nonviolent resistance that said, what if the Messiah was nonviolent? What if Jesus was the Messiah? I cannot understand, unless some said that, what they were doing, hanging around even for an empty tomb. So I think the model we have from Jesus, and there are other models, and I don't have to say it's only in Christianity. I really don't. Tell me your models. I want to ask every religion today, tell me what your answer is to, are we a sustainable species?
Yes.
That's what I want to hear from you.
Yes.
Don't tell me there's heaven. That's nice. That's all lovely. But tell me your program for a sustainable earth and a sustainable species down here on earth. And I will say in my tradition, the Christian tradition, it's non-violent resistance that alone can stop the escalatory violence that you were warned about in chapter 4 between Cain and Lamech. It's all written out there. Violence escalates. Maybe everything escalates. Maybe
Fills the earth, Genesis 6, yeah.
But so I think the only thing that can save the human race is violence against the environment, against other species, and against ourselves, as the Bible knew, is nonviolent resistance. I understand, I'm not a pacifist, by the way. I understand completely if you're attacked, you're going to attack back.
Yeah.
I understand if Russia attacks Ukraine, it's going to attack back.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it shouldn't. I'm saying that escalatory violence will eventually destroy the human race. That may be a tragedy. That a tragedy is something that you have to do, sort of, but it destroys you. So that's what we have to face. That it looks like we get better and better at everything. I do like my computer. I do like modern toilets. We get better at everything. We get better at killing. We're really better at it than the legions with their swords.
Oh, yeah.
We can destroy the world. I honestly don't see how it won't happen, maybe accidentally.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's the warning we got 2,000 years ago from Jesus and from Paul. Hey, you guys, pay attention. And I didn't get it just from them, as if I didn't get it all the way from Genesis 1 through the Bible. But the Bible was focusing on war as what might destroy us. You have to beat your swords at the plowshares, spears and pruning hooks. But the Bible never imagined that the pruning hooks might be the problem, that agriculture might destroy us. I thought war was the only thing that could destroy us. But we now know that agriculture, what we're doing to the environment, could destroy us if we never had another war in the history of the world. If we even had peace forever from now on, we're still on a trajectory to destroy the earth. That's what's scary to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I take the magnificent vision of the Bible and of Jesus and say, let's make war no more, Isaiah, but we still have what we're doing to the environment. So we've escalated beyond even the imagination of the Bible, it seems to me.
And how whether people eat meat or don't eat meat, like some vegetarian thing, that's not the point. I personally quit eating meat years ago, 1995, I think. Not as any moral superiority, but the way we treat fellow sentient creatures.
Yeah.
Dogs and cats we understand, but I would just want us to extend that compassion. And some of the better studies now that are being done show that some of the ways we're treating the animals, not to mention the plants, are actually going to come back and really bite us. You know, destruction of forest, destruction of land.
There's a trilogy that I see. There is the environment. These are artificial distinctions. There are other species,
Yes,
whole species, and there are ourselves.
ourselves.
And we can destroy ourselves atomically, biologically, chemically, demographically, ecologically.
Yeah.
I look at that list. We're only up to E in our apocalyptic alphabet. I mean, we know how to destroy ourselves in multiple ways. We are good at killing.
And you've also pointed out in another interview that you did with Derek that I found very moving is, despite this crisis, each one of us individually are given amazing grace to have more time to change. Now, it's not guaranteed for everyone. Sometimes things happen. Something can happen to me or you or any of us right now. But right now I'm sitting here, and today is open and tomorrow's open.
Yeah.
So also for taking charge as much as we can, starting with our own little area. And so this idea of grace, you know, just this heavenly, oh, God will forgive you and all that.
Yeah.
We get so much grace.
But we
I've
can
had
change.
so much
That
grace
is
in
the
my
grace.
life. We can
Supposing we were
change,
beings that couldn't change.
Yeah.
Supposing we have to kill.
Yeah.
And the same with the lion's going after the gazelle,
Yeah.
and it's not going to take up, you know.
And my
salad.
wolf dogs can lay on my bed at night and I can pet it, you know.
So could we
Could we?
So that we have the grace of change, that we can change. We can, really can. And we have time.
Yes.
Before it is too late.
Yeah.
Those are the great.
So we
graces.
have our own apocalypse then, potentially, but it's not a rescue apocalypse.
No.
It's actually.
It's a realistic one.
How about Malachi? Let's end with this last verse of the Hebrew prophets. Unless the fathers turn to the children and the children to the fathers, the earth could be struck with utter Karam. And Karam means destruction. Now that could have been God will come and destroy, whatever, but it's quite an image. That word Karam means just to blot out everything.
And I think in the whole of the Bible, unless I'm mistaken, I cannot ever find the idea, in our sense of the word, that God would destroy the world, destroy this evil age and make it a different world. Because if God were to destroy the world, that would mean that God blew it. Creation was a mistake. It's like, the car be called back to the factory, which is an admission that the factory blew it.
Yeah.
Okay, if God destroys the world in the sense that we can do it, then that would be admission, I blew it.
Yeah.
So that never occurs to anyone I can see in the Hebrew Bible or the Catholic Bible. What they do think is that heaven's going to come down to earth.
And magically fix everything.
And magically fix it.
As if we can keep
But not that earth's going to
behaving
go up
like
to
we
heaven.
do. Mm-hmm.
You're saying forsake that idea of the magic. Let's do something now, and there's a philosophy there.
Let's do something now because that's in the Bible. It's not from us. Even at the end of the book of Revelation, nowhere does it say earth's going up to heaven. It says heaven's coming down to earth. Now maybe it's a bit more magical.
Yeah.
And it might need more participation, collaboration, but okay, it's coming down. And in the Greek of the Our Father in Matthew, it says, as in heaven, so on earth.
Yes.
Now in English we say, on earth as in heaven, and that could be innocent, that transition.
Yeah.
But I think it's on earth now, in heaven later. I don't think that's an innocent juxtaposition.
And even in the vision of the new heavens and new earth in Revelation or Isaiah, but let's go with Revelation, there's metaphors. There's a river, and trees are growing on the side of the river, and they're for the healing of the nations. So it's not this Protestant Catholic idea. The end comes, the great judgment comes, you either go to heaven or hell or purgatory or whatever.
It's a better earth.
It's about the earth being perfected. It's called Tikkun Ha'olam in Hebrew. And many, many Jews have been taught that, and Judaism more and more understands that. Not all forms of Judaism, but more enlightened forms. And many, what I would call upscale Protestant churches, and I don't mean wealthy necessarily, but they realize many, many churches, where I live in Charlotte, our Methodist church, our Presbyterian church, and so forth, they're not really trying to save souls. They're trying to do the things that I outline at the end of the book. Work for justice and address poverty and speak truth to power, and they do it all the time. You go any day of the week and they're feeding children, they're clothing, they're if all of those good things disappeared, even that the church does, and I know many others do it without the church. You don't need the church.
Exactly.
But many churches inspire this. Catholicism, you couldn't possibly sum it up worldwide. It's so vast. But there's a lot being done in terms of trying to carry out, the mission of Jesus. I mean, that's really what many feel.
And it is talking very much with Francis and with Leo about the environment, the world.
The world.
I mean,
and he's an educated man, and he's well read. And
God so loved the world.
Yeah.
the famous quotation that we forget: God so loved the world.
Mm-hmm.
And if he loved the world, he loved us. But nobody says, as all the stickers do around where we live, God loves you.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but you could love you and not love the world. You and me and each of us individually.
So it's back to Genesis 1.
It's back to Genesis 1.
Good, very good.
Very good.
and the Shabbat and the Sabbath and the rest.
And then the Sabbath goes into...
It's a wonderful, powerful image. Yeah.
Goes into the Sabbath day, the Sabbath year, the Sabbath Jubilee. So the time itself beats to the metronome, as it were, of justice from Genesis 1.
So thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has been
These two old guys
Yeah.
getting to spill it all out and dream and wonder and imagine. And well, I appreciate you, Derek. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man.
What is it? Your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream
Yeah.
dreams. Is
That's
that
it.
right?
Yeah, so we're dreaming dreams.
I'm starting
You got a vision
the
to
guys-
implement.
You're the guys who has the vision. Push vision.
See,
rather
we
than
we
myth.
kind of messed it up.
Well, it's, let's just be honest. It is called myth vision.
vision. Right?
Okay,
But
so
don't forget the vision. Don't just talk
don't
about
forget
myth.
the vision. And yeah, I really do. I think this is historical, having both you gentlemen here, because you won't be here forever, and
Nope.
someone can look back to this moment. Oh, I read that guy's book. Well, you're listening to the heart of two men who are saying, "Let's do something about this. Let's show the kindness." And having a fun historical biography. We went to Mary. We went through your scholarship, and we really barely scratched the surface. It'd be awesome to do this and really get into the weeds, like just have a hangout day where we do the longest episode
Yeah.
going into everything. Me and him argued when we were, in Jerusalem.
And,
one time.
Dom and I are basically a decade apart, and if you think about it, the 30s catches the war. I'm 1946, first of the post-war generation. Baby boomers were called. And we kind of bridged something. So we remember the 60s, remember the turn of the millennium really well. Kennedy's assassination, Martin Luther King, RFK, the Vietnam War. I mean, we were all active. 10 years isn't much. You now, you're in your 30s,
Yeah.
have inherited what we represent. From 1939, if you think about it, really 1933, just start with Germany and Hitler, all the way through now. We got the State of Israel, we got Gaza, we got all these things. Boy, it's a lot. Our generation did some great things, but we also are kind of handing this to you. And I don't know that we're too old to probably do much, but we can dream. Old men dream.
Yeah. All we
But
could do is
you
tell the truth.
actually, your generation, it's up to you to envision this world. Otherwise,
No pressure.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Listen, links in the description. Get Dom's books on Amazon. Get Dr. Tabor's books on Amazon. I'd like to see this again if you've enjoyed it. Tell us in the comment section, and of course, make sure you go subscribe, because you're going to see this over at James Tabor's channel as well. So, thank you so much for your time, guys.
It has been
Thanks a
great.
lot.
Thank
Great
you.
pleasure.
Congratulations on your book.
thank you,
and
Dom.
on you on Myth Vision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.